say this and then share my screen. Okay. Put this up here. And okay. All right. Can y'all see my screen? You can put a thumbs up or unmute if you want. Let me know if you see my screen. It does say that I'm screen sharing though. Okay. All right. So again, I'm Tiana James, and I am a full spectrum fertility awareness educator. So I teach the Justice method of fertility awareness, and I practice as a holistic reproductive health practitioner. So the full spectrum just refers to the fact that I teach everyone, regardless of where they are on the reproductive spectrum. So I teach body literacy, female body literacy from the very beginning. So when a girl gets her first period, I have my period confidence workshops for girls 8 years old and up that will be launching this summer. And of course, I teach female body literacy all the way to and through the menopause stage, preparing women to transition out of their cycles. And over the last 10 years, I have developed this deep love and passion for the menstrual cycle and the menstrual cycle awareness, so much so that I'm just making it my living now. And so I've been officially teaching fertility awareness since starting my internship last year in 2022 with Justice College International. So I'll be graduating from there this year, 2023, this summer actually. And then after I graduate, I'm going to be an accredited fertility awareness educator through the Association of Fertility Awareness Professionals. I can't wait for that. So I've also been charting my cycle since 2014, and I use my charts as a method of natural birth control and to monitor and attend to my own reproductive and overall health. So I share short forms of awareness and education on Instagram and YouTube. So if you're not already following me on those platforms, this is a great time to start. You can find me. You can search my full name on both of those, IG and YouTube, Tiana James. And then a few other things about me is that I am a mother. I have a son and a daughter. Both of them have birthdays in August, so they're going to be 10 and 6. And also I'm a wife. So my husband and I it'll be 7 years this September that we're married. And then also I am a homebody. Like I love to be at home, especially since the shutdown a few years ago. I've developed like this love for cooking, and I always love to eat. So I'm always cooking because I love to eat and just spending time with my family. And then most people know me as a licensed cosmetologist. I'm licensed with the state of Michigan and Louisiana. So I have been a full-time hairstylist since graduating high school. So operating as a fertility awareness educator is very different for me. But when I recognized the need after I learned about it and started using the method, I decided to go ahead and get out there and start teaching women, especially Black women, about fertility awareness method, because to me, it seems like that's who Black women don't know anything about fertility awareness. So I'm bringing it all to you. So that's a bit about me. I would love to know a little bit more about all of you ladies. So I just like us to introduce ourselves among each other, share why we're here, what we like to leave with. And I do this because this is a very personal, intimate topic of conversation. So I just think it's a good idea to just become a tad bit familiar with who may be in the room, maybe even find like some relation to each other. So just use like 2 to 3 minutes to allow us to introduce ourselves. So these are some things that you can share, like why you're attending. Are you trying to avoid pregnancy? Maybe you're trying to conceive. Do you want to just monitor and improve your health? What about your menstrual cycles? You can share if they're regular, irregular, long, or short. And if you've already started charting, if you know a little bit about it. You could share things like if you're on or off hormonal birth control, or postpartum and breastfeeding, or postpartum and not breastfeeding, some things you love to do, just anything, a little bit, whatever you want. But these are just some topics or questions I chose that you can share. So I'm gonna just give y'all like 1 or 2 minutes. But if I don't see nothing in a couple seconds, I'm gonna move on.
Hi, my name is Dana. Sorry, let me on my camera for a second. So I am here because of health reasons. I have two children, a boy and a girl, similar ages to Tiana. Both will be turning, both have birthdays this month, turning 10 and 7. And I am here because of irregular cycles and wanting to get that under control. And um, I've not done charting the way you mentioned in one of the emails. I've done it before on apps and I got away from that. But recently I've just had very sometimes it's long, sometimes it's short. So I'm just trying to figure out what's going on and just learn more. And I know I watch you on Instagram and you are always teaching me something. So thought I would join.
Thank you, Dana. I want to mention too, you can add if you want to add anything, you can add it in the chat, or you can come off mute and speak. Thank you for adding that, Dana. Introducing yourself. Thank you for coming.
I can go next. Sorry, I have no voice. I'm going to turn my video on really quickly. My name is Celeste, and I have regular cycles. Charting is very unfamiliar for me, but I have fibroids. I had them removed 10 years ago. I had a robotic myomectomy, and they have now returned. And so one is actually I don't have children, but my husband and I are planning to start trying. We don't have like a specific timeline, but just visiting my OBGYN, learned that my fibroids have returned, and one is actually large enough and in the way to interfere with us trying. So I'm scheduled to have those removed, but it'll be vaginally, so not as invasive as the first go round. So that's supposed to happen next month. So just very interested to be introduced to this and learn about it. And I was invited by Robin. She's the one that told me about it.
Thank you, Celeste, for sharing. I am sending all of the healing vibes to you, hoping that your surgery goes with success, knowing that it will. Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks, Robin, for referring Celeste to this. Thank you so much. And let me see.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sounds like everybody is going. Did I cut somebody off?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'll go. I'm Robin. Tiana, I always watch you on Instagram, or whenever you're speaking, I'm always learning something. So sorry, I could take myself off a video right quick. But no, I'm just here because I know that I'll learn something about women's health, and I'm always intrigued to know and to be in the know. It's not something that I generally just look for, but I want to know. I do have a child already, as you know, and yeah, so I'm not necessarily looking to have another baby right now, but I'm just interested in what you have to say. I always learn something, and so I'm just here for the information.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Robin.
Okay, and my name is Sophia, and I'm here for support, and then to just I'm always trying to learn new stuff. So I was just interested in what might be available. I deal with fibroids as well. And I've recently noticed that I could start feeling them more. I'm sorry, I thought I was in the camera, but I can feel them more recently. And just I'm always interested in overall, learning stuff about health, even though whether I use it or not, that's something different. But I do have one son. Go plug it up. I have one son. I'm not looking to have any more kids, and just kind of trying to understand a little bit more. I've tried the charting before, and I don't generally have the discipline to kind of keep up with it, but maybe something else, maybe this is a time where I'm ready for it, because now they're 10 days long. So yeah, it's getting ridiculous.
Okay. Yes, it does take discipline. Thank you, Sophia. Sophie is my cousin. I call her Sophie, so it's a little different here. I say Sophia. Thanks though for adding. All right. Couple seconds if anybody else want to jump in or not, I'm gonna move on.
Good evening, everyone. I joined this meeting today because I've actually been working with Tiana for the past couple of months, charting and learning about the fertility awareness method. My name is Monet, by the way, if I didn't say that. But yeah, I've been learning with Tiana for the past couple of months, and I'm just here for support. It did take a lot of discipline to chart and take my temperature every day, but each day it gets easier and easier. So I wish you guys the best with this, and I hope you guys stick to it.
Thanks, Monet. Nice to see you here. Thanks for showing up. It's always more to learn in fertility awareness. Lex put in the chat that she is Monet's friend. So thanks, Monet, for inviting Lex. And Lex, thanks for showing up. And Lex is a birth doula, or will be at a licensed birth doula at the end of May. And so she has 2 rare disorders that tremendously affect her periods, and more education regarding health and holistic practice is welcomed. Don't always feel heard in healthcare regarding my personal choices. Lex, thank you so much for sharing that and showing up. I know that you're going to walk away with some new information today that you can consider for meeting your health needs. All right, so I feel like most have shared. So we're gonna move on. All right. And I made these slides on Canva, and I never used these before, but they're super hard to slide through. All right, so the plan for today is that I'm going to chat very briefly about what is fertility awareness. And then that'll be followed by a quick cervical mucus demonstration. And then last, but certainly not least, I want to tell you a little bit about my cycle charting program. And then after that, we're going to get into some Q&A. So you are always welcome to ask questions at any time about anything and everything regarding the fertility awareness method and the reproductive cycle. There is no TMI. So I just ask that if you are putting your questions in the chat, that you make sure that you add like a capital Q or all caps question before your question. So when I go back to scroll through them, I can easily identify them. And then I want to make sure I mute everybody. Okay. Got that. All right. So in the chats, and I also want to make this a little interactive so I can keep y'all's attention. So in the chat, I want you to enter your answer for how many days in each cycle do you think women are fertile? So do you think that women are fertile every single day of the cycle, maybe just half of the cycle, like 12 to 14 days, or maybe like 6 days? What do you think? I'm gonna leave a couple seconds to get some answers. Okay, so Dana says 6 days. Sophie said half of the cycle. Celeste and Monet are saying 6. Okay, Lex saying 6 too. All right. So most of y'all were correct. It is 6 days. That is it. 6 days of the entire cycle is the amount of days that a woman is fertile. And the fact that the female body is not fertile every single day, and that we change and that we can actually pay attention to this change, is the foundation of what fertility awareness is. So when I talk to people about being a fertility awareness educator, I sometimes hear a response with something like, oh no, I'm not trying to have any more kids. I don't need to worry about my fertility, something like that. Because when we think about fertility, we only think about having babies, but it's actually the awareness of the change in your fertility and the fact that this change affects your whole body. So, not only your ability to achieve or avoid pregnancy, but also like what you want to eat that day, how you want to move your body, how you feel, what you want to make and create. All of those things are brought into your consciousness even more when you're aware of your fertility and infertility and what phase of your cycle that you're in. And this awareness makes it even easier to honor your body and live in alignment with your needs, your own personal individual needs. So, fertility awareness is the daily practice of observing and recording your signs of fertility and infertility and bringing attention to your menstrual cycle, essentially unlocking its divine potential. So, if you know just a little bit about me, you know I talk about the body being a divine gift from our creator. Whoever you believe in, this body is a gift. And this one body that we are gifted can be used as a vehicle to last throughout our entire personal journey if we properly care for it. So you always hear people say you only get one body, you got to care for it. But first, you got to learn all that you can about your body so you know how to properly take care of it. So my motto is body literacy plus self-care is what equals self-preservation. So there are 3 biomarkers in a fertility awareness practice. And when I say biomarkers, these are the biological signs that your body naturally presents every day, whether you pay attention to them or not, they are there. And so the first one is cervical mucus, and then we have basal body temperature, and then cervical position and texture. And there's various reasons why somebody will want to pay attention to these 3 signs and record them daily on a chart. So some are tired of the pill or the IUD or whatever form of contraception, and they're interested in non-hormonal methods of contraception. So that was me. I didn't want to take a pill anymore. I didn't like the shot. I was just done with it. And so the non-hormonal methods of contraception is what I was looking for. Some people want to balance their hormones. Some people want to conceive naturally without medical intervention. And some people just want to understand their bodies better in order to improve their health and attain regular cycles. So these are all great reasons to practice fertility awareness, not just to conceive. So I find that most people who use fertility awareness are using the method to avoid pregnancy. So I'm going to ask another question, and in the chat, tell me who has ever heard of the rhythm method or knows what it is. Anybody ever heard of the rhythm method? So Dana, she never heard of the rhythm method. I'm surprised. A lot of people hear the rhythm method.
I've never heard of it.
Never heard of the rhythm method?
No.
Okay. All right, cool. Nobody has ever heard of rhythm method. Well, even if you haven't, Sophie says she's heard of it, but she can't explain it. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm gonna just debunk the myth that fertility awareness is the same as the outdated and ineffective rhythm method. Most people hear fertility awareness and they think of the rhythm method. So the rhythm method predicts when you will be fertile based on your past cycle events. Like
Okay.
if a person is tracking their cycles on a period tracker, it will tell you when you are supposed to be fertile based on your old periods before or just based off textbook algorithms. So that's what the rhythm method is. It predicts when you will be fertile, which is very ineffective. But fertility awareness method relies on daily and real-time observations of your fertility, which is not the same thing. So the symptothermal methods of fertility awareness, what I teach is a symptothermal method of fertility awareness. There are different fertility awareness-based methods, and I teach the symptothermal method, and it's been proven to be highly effective. So unlike the rhythm method, symptothermal methods of fertility awareness can be just effective as the pill without any of the side effects. So there are some studies that reported it to be between 99.4 and 99.6 effectiveness rate. But that's with perfect use. And I'm not really big on studies, to be perfectly honest. I just like to emphasize what's true for you, what's actually happening in your body and your behaviors and your intentions as well. So when I talk about the effectiveness and the efficacy of fertility awareness-based methods, instead of like a number or a study, these are some things that I think that you should consider. So which method of fertility awareness you're practicing. So whether it's the symptothermal method, which is more effective than the others, or like a thermometer only method, like if you've ever heard of natural cycles or the daisy, for example, what also needs to be considered is the correct and consistent use of the method and its rules, and this is what will increase the efficacy. Your own ability to confidently identify your fertile window, again, improves the effectiveness. Your motivation to prevent pregnancy, your experience with charting, your social support, and especially the cooperation and support of your partner or partners, all of this is going to affect the effectiveness. Your behavior during the fertile times. So the highest effectiveness of the method is to avoid intercourse during your fertile times, but you might choose to use a condom instead, which will change the effectiveness of your ability to avoid pregnancy using this awareness. And also receiving instruction and follow-up from a qualified teacher like me is going to affect the use and effectiveness of the method for you. So there's some benefits and challenges to practicing anything. So in using the fertility awareness method as a form of contraception, some of the benefits, for example, are ovulation. So I recently talked about the benefits of ovulation, and with fertility awareness, you are allowing your body to ovulate, which is amazing. So that's the main event of the cycle. That's what we want. We want ovulation because it comes with so many health benefits. All of the hormones that are involved with your body ovulating protect your body against different diseases and disorders. So there is, I don't know, like if you've ever seen this movement of like, we don't need periods. I've seen in the veganism community that they feel like, you know, when you lose your periods, that's your body being clean. There's different movements out there that state that you don't need your period. And we don't need our period, but it's ovulation that we need. And if we ovulate and don't conceive, then that's when you get a period. But if you're not getting a period because you're not ovulating, that is not healthy. Okay. And so with fertility awareness, you're able to confirm ovulatory cycles. Also, the benefits with fertility awareness is that there are no side effects like you get with any method of contraception that's not natural. And fertility awareness supports cyclical living. You gain a better understanding of your body and yourself when you practice fertility awareness. And it also improves the intimacy and communication with your partner or partners. And it can be used to monitor and improve your overall health. So there are some women who practice abstinence or celibacy, and they don't need a method of contraception, but they want to keep track of and manage their health independently, use a holistic approach to managing and improving their health. So they use their charts as a compass for true self-care. And then the method can be used to achieve pregnancy. So let's say you were wanting to avoid pregnancy and your intentions change from avoiding pregnancy, and now you want to achieve pregnancy. When you use fertility awareness, you already know when you're ovulating. So naturally, you know when to allow sperm into your body for conception. But there are some challenges too. So some of the challenges are that practicing fertility awareness requires a daily commitment of observing and charting the signs of your cycle. So no, we're not going to use an app to predict or an algorithm to tell us when we're fertile. We're going to do the work ourselves. And this requires full responsibility for your sexual actions and choices. It requires clear communication with your supportive partner or partners. And it also requires abstinence and or the proper use of barrier methods or withdrawal during the fertile times. And it also does not protect against STIs, and it takes time to learn. It takes time to learn. So I always recommend at least 3 to 4 cycles or at least 3 full months of attending to and gaining an understanding of your changes in your fertile window to be able to properly, accurately, and confidently use this method to avoid pregnancy. So as far as taking time to learn, one of the first things you have to learn if you want to practice fertility awareness is how to check for cervical mucus. So that's why I want to give everybody just a quick demonstration of how to check for cervical mucus. But first, before I do that, let's just talk a little bit more about why it's important. All right. So let me show you how to locate your womb. Put my camera down so you can see me. So you can do this if you want to while you're sitting down, but I'm standing up. So you find your navel and you put your thumbs together at your navel, and then you put your fingers down like a little triangle, and then your pointer and middle finger is where you'll find your uterus, right there. And so the lower portion of your uterus is your cervix, and that extends down into your vagina. So if you've never seen or felt your cervix, all you got to do is squat down and you insert your freshly cleansed longest finger. So I use my middle finger. And if it's real high up, sometimes I got to use my middle and index finger to get up there. And you go all the way up to the top into the back of your vagina, and you'll feel what feels like a little grape with a dimple in it. So that's your cervix. And that's what you'll do if you're checking your cervical position and texture. But that's like an optional sign. You don't have to do that, but if you wanted more information to put on your charts, that's how you'll check your cervix and your position and the texture of it. And so your cervix is a mucus making machine. It is always making mucus. And so in the Justice world, we call it nature's gate. And like a gate, sometimes it's open, sometimes it's closed. Okay, so I want to ask you in the chat again, if you can name the 2 main female sex hormones. I know y'all know the 2 main female sex hormones, but if you don't, that's okay. We're here to learn. Let me know if you know. Okay, so Robin said oxytocin, Sophie is saying estrogen, Lex is saying estrogen and progesterone. Monet is saying estrogen and progesterone. All right. The 2 main female sex hormones. All right, so we got a few answers. So estrogen and progesterone is the 2 main female hormones. So y'all got it right. Oops, okay. All right, so estrogen opens up that gate. Remember I said the cervix is like nature's gate. Estrogen will open up the gate. So when the estrogen levels are high, the cervix is making cervical mucus. So we see on this illustration is the interplay of the hormones during the menstrual cycle. So in the beginning, estrogen is the dominant hormone. And then we have ovulation as the middle point. And then after ovulation, progesterone is the dominant hormone. So as the estrogen levels rise up, it stimulates the cervix to start making mucus. And the cervix, the mucus becomes fluid enough to come down the vagina, and then it becomes visible at the vulva and on our toilet paper when we wipe. And then when progesterone levels are high, it closes that gate and it'll dry up the cervical mucus and we don't see it anymore. It'll plug up the cervix. So that's why we don't see it anymore. I know you all have heard of a mucus plug before, but you only hear about that when a woman is pregnant. But it also happens in every single cycle after you ovulate. And so there's no more mucus seen at the vulva or on the tissue when we wipe. So, yes. So the first thing that we do in the fertility awareness practice is we get to know the changes in our cervical mucus. So everybody's changes in cervical mucus is going to be unique, person to person, and cycle to cycle. And so this illustration is what we call the cycle wheel. All right. So if you all can tell me, do you know what is considered the first day of the menstrual cycle? Anybody know what the first day of the menstrual cycle? All right. I was only going to give you all a couple of seconds. So Lex said the first day of last period. First day of last period. Okay. I think that you mean the first day of your period. I think. All right, so I'm gonna move on. So did I close it out, y'all? Y'all can see my slides still? I closed it. I didn't mean to do that. All right, let's see. Hold on, y'all. I think I gotta stop sharing. Oh, did I stop sharing it? Tell me what y'all see. Because it don't look like I'm sharing no more. Let me turn this. Okay, I can't minimize. Sorry, y'all. I ain't never did this before. All right. Okay. All right. Wow. Got it back up. And now I'm back on Zoom. Maximize. And now I'm sharing my screen again. Okay. So tell me if y'all can see that. It say I'm sharing, so I'm gonna move on. Okay. All right, Monet said the first day of heavy or medium flow. Okay. All right, cool. But y'all can see me now. Y'all can see my slides now, right? Okay. So the first day of menstruation is the first day of menstruation that requires a period product is day 1 of your cycle. So the reason I specify the first day of menstruation that requires a period product is because some women have spotting before they come on their period. And that is actually premenstrual spotting. So that is part of your last cycle. The first day that requires a period product, and period product, when I say period product, I'm talking about a sanitary napkin, a tampon, a cup or a disc, whatever you might use. But I wanted to specify that because a panty liner is not a period product. Panty liners are just to protect from your panties being soiled. They're not actually made just for your period. So I'm talking about a pad, tampon, cups and discs, and whatever else I don't know about. So the first day that you need a period product, that is the day 1 of your cycle. So heavy or medium bleeding, like Monet stated. So maybe you bleed for like 4, 5, 6 days. And then eventually you won't see anything. So you bleed for a few days, you don't see anything, it's dry, and there will be nothing on the toilet paper. And then maybe a couple days or weeks go by of that dryness, and then you do start to see something. So you start these mucus symptoms, and it may look a little sticky. It may be cloudy or pasty or tacky, and then it progresses to like a creamy or lotiony. And then it'll become clear and stretchy, like raw egg white. And then it'll just go away again. And you don't see anything until the next cycle. So that would be the opening and closing of your fertile window. This when your mucus symptoms start and when they stop. That's the opening and closing of your fertile window. And if that opened fertile window accompanies ovulation, and it doesn't always accompany ovulation, then progesterone will kick in, and then you've entered the post-ovulatory or luteal phase of your cycle, where there aren't any more ovulations. There's going to be no more cervical mucus and infertility until the next cycle starts. So in the beginning, when I said you only have 6 days of fertility, that's this period here of those mucus symptoms that you experience. So by paying attention to your cervical mucus alone, you can observe the opening and closing of your fertile window, and then you use this information to avoid or achieve pregnancy naturally. And then also, you always know where you are in your cycle. So whether you are in the menstrual phase, the follicular phase, the ovulatory phase, or the luteal phase, you always know where you are, and you get to know the changes in your estrogen and progesterone levels, whether they're too high or they're too low, which can tell you a lot about your overall health and your hormonal health. And you can gain insight into your vaginal and cervical health just by paying attention to what you see and what you don't see on your toilet paper. So when do you check for cervical mucus? So you're going to check every time before and after you go to the bathroom. You're going to check every time before and after bathing or showering, before you go to bed. And if you get up in the middle of the night to pee, you're going to check every single day, except your heavy and moderate days of menstruation. So this may sound like a lot, but at the end of the day, it's probably only like 2 to 3 extra minutes total spent just paying attention to your body. So now this is a cross section of you and your pelvis. So we have your uterus and your vagina. Behind that is your rectum and your anus. And in front of the vagina is the bladder and the urethra. All right. So with the Justice method of fertility awareness, we teach to check for cervical mucus after peeing or pooping, because when you're bearing down to pee or poop, any mucus that was hanging out here around the cervix at the top of the vagina can get squeezed down and become visible at your vulva when you go to wipe. But even when you're walking around just being a juicy, fertile woman, the mucus comes down on its own. So that's why you want to check before you use the toilet too. And the same thing with bathing or showering. You don't want to wash it away before you check for it. So every time your pants are down and you have toilet paper around, you want to check for cervical mucus. So you're going to check throughout the entire day before deciding, am I fertile today or not? So the last check is the check before you go to bed. And that's when you're going to decide, is today a fertile day or not? And then if you were to get up in the middle of the night to pee, that will be the first check of the next day. And again, you're going to do this every single day, except the heavy and moderate days of menstruation. So how to check for cervical mucus? So we use this acronym in the Justice world, SOFT, S-O-F-T, but there are 3 steps. So sensation, observation, and then finger test is the 3rd step. So I know you're already wiping. So all we're going to do is go from mindlessly wiping to wiping consciously. So the first thing you're going to do when you go to the bathroom is you're going to take some toilet paper. And if you have your toilet paper and lotion and water, you can do this with me. And we're going to make a cervical mucus canvas. So no more wiping your vulva with this. Nope. We are going to make a nice flat canvas. All right. So no more wiping with balled up tissue. We got to make a canvas so we can actually feel and see with the toilet paper. There are some fertility awareness based methods that teach you to check internally with your finger. And that's how I learned at first. But it's always something wet or mucus in your vagina. And so it's not that accurate. So we check with the toilet paper in the Justice method. So you're going to make this cervical mucus canvas. That's what I call it, a canvas, before you sit down on the toilet. So that's going to remind you that before you pee or poop, I need to check. So the first step is sensation. You wipe yourself, you ask yourself, how did that feel? And then you observe the tissue. What do I see? And then next, you finger test. So you're going to take your finger and you're going to go across the toilet paper and you're going to see if you can pick anything up with your finger. And that's it. Those are the steps. So then you do your business, take the same toilet paper. I just fold it over to a dry part and you do those same steps again. So sensation, what do I feel? Observation, what do I see? And finger test, can I pick anything up? And then you put your toilet paper in the toilet. You remember how you felt and what you saw, and you make a mental note of it or a digital note. My one client, she made digital notes. She put all of her observations for the day in her phone notes. And then at the end of the day, you're going to record your one most estrogenic sign. And there are about 3 to 4 different sensations that you might experience. So it can be dry, it can be smooth, it can be wet or moist, or lubricative. All right. Okay, so this is just an illustration of the vulva. You got the clitoris, the urethral opening where you pee, you got your vaginal opening, and your anus. All right, so you want to determine the sensation before looking at the toilet paper. So when you're wiping, you got to make sure you're wiping from front to back. Whether you're practicing fertility awareness or not, I hope that you're wiping from front to back. All right, so maybe you are a puller or maybe you're a pusher, but either way, make sure you're wiping from clitoris to anus. And so when you wipe, you want to wipe across the vaginal opening. So when you wipe across the vaginal opening, you might pick up some cervical mucus that was hanging out here, and it's going to change the way it feels at the perineum. So the perineum is that space between your vaginal opening and your anus. It's that skin, that smooth skin. And the skin there, it feels like the skin on the inside of your wrist. They have the same sensitivity to sensations. So if you have a cervical mucus canvas, you're going to go ahead and take it and wipe it across your wrist if you have your tissue with you. And if you close your eyes, if you want to, and then just pay attention to exactly what you feel. All right. If you're trying this is what we call a dry sensation. So you can easily feel the fibers of the tissue. It's dry. Now, I'm going to take the lotion and I'm going to put a dollop on my wrist, a big dollop on my wrist, and rub it in just a little bit on the surface of the wrist. And I'm going to take that toilet paper and I'm going to wipe it. And if you're doing this, you'll notice like the toilet paper slips right across. All right, that's a lubricative sensation. You can't even feel the fibers of the tissue anymore. All right, so that lubricative sensation alone is automatically fertile. Now, I'm gonna fold the toilet paper and I'm gonna keep wiping the rest of that lotion off my wrist. And the sensation is somewhere in the middle now. So it's not quite as dry where I could still feel the fibers of the tissue, but it's not as slippery or lubricative as before. So in that middle point is the smooth sensation. And wet just feels like wet, like it's wet or moist. All right. So I'm gonna go back to the steps. So you want to pay attention to the sensation before you decide the sensation before you decide. You want to pay attention to the sensation and decide the sensation before you look at the toilet paper. And so the reason for that is so that you don't change your mind about what you felt. Because if you were to feel a lubricative sensation, you're probably expecting to see that stretchy raw egg white type of cervical mucus. But if you look at the toilet paper and you don't see anything, you might think, all right, I don't have any mucus, then I must not be fertile. But wrong. So some people's cervical mucus is so high in water content, you can't even see it. So that lubricative sensation alone is automatically fertile. Now, the state of your fertility and infertility with the dry and smooth sensations depends on the next step, which is O. What do you observe? So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make another cervical mucus canvas. And on my wrist, I'm gonna wipe it across my wrist. And this observation is dry. So if you was wiping your vulva, it would be a little bit more wrinkled, but nothing on it is a dry observation. So if it's accompanied by a dry or smooth sensation and there's nothing on the toilet paper, this is what we call a dry day, and it's infertile. And so now you got some water, get your water. I'm gonna take a big sip first. Because if you want to improve your cycle health, you have to be hydrated. So you got to drink lots of water. So I'm putting my 2 fingers in my water and I'm going to wipe it on the tissue. This little dampness on the tissue, this is what we call a damp observation, if you can see. And if it's accompanied by a dry or smooth sensation, that's still infertile. And I'm going to take my 2 fingers again, put them in the water, and I'm gonna wipe it on my toilet paper. This is a wet observation, okay? But the same thing, if it's accompanied by a dry or smooth sensation and you can't pick anything up, it's infertile. All right, so I'm gonna take my lotion and I'm gonna put some lotion on a dry spot on the toilet paper. All right. This little shiny look, if you can see shiny, that's vaginal cell slough, and we call this a shiny observation. So vaginal cell slough is very different from cervical mucus. If you try to pick it up off the tissue, you cannot. Vaginal cell slough is just the cells in your vagina. They slough off as part of having this happy, healthy, self-cleaning vagina. And also the vaginal cell slough, it feeds the good bacteria in your vagina. So if you notice that shininess on your tissue, or it'll be like crumbly stuff in your panties, that's just vaginal cell slough. It's normal. It's a healthy sign. And this brings us to the last step. It's finger testing. So after you finish observing the toilet paper, you always want to take your finger and you want to go across the toilet paper and see if you can pick anything up. And if you can pick anything up off the toilet paper, then that is cervical mucus and it's fertile, always, okay? So you may see some non-peak cervical mucus that looks cloudy or maybe even yellow, sticky, thick, or tacky. Oops. You might, well, like as your estrogen levels peak, you might see what we call peak type mucus that's like clear or stretchy, looking like raw egg white. And maybe it comes with that lubricative sensation. But if you can pick it up off of the toilet paper, no matter what it looks like, it's mucus and it's fertile. All cervical mucus is fertile. So that's how you check for cervical mucus. So if you take anything away from this introduction tonight, just allow it to be that you're gonna start paying attention to your body's way of communicating with you, and wipe with your cervical mucus canvas before and after you pee or poop every single time. Even if you don't want to go through learning the whole fertility awareness thing, like, know that your body is talking to you every single day, whether you pay attention or not. But if you're not paying attention to her, that means you're ignoring her. And I want you to start listening to her, okay? So if you have any questions about cervical mucus, checking for it, identifying it, now is the time you can put them in the chats. But before I jump into the Q&A, I just want to talk a little bit about my fertility awareness cycle charting program, because of course I want y'all to learn how to chart your cycles for all the reasons I mentioned previously. So my program is for you if you want to learn how to identify your fertile and infertile days and confirm ovulation, and then use this method to avoid pregnancy confidently without hormonal birth control, or achieve pregnancy without medical intervention. It's for you if you want to monitor or improve your cycle or your hormonal and overall health. And if you want to better understand your female body, live in a more cyclical way, in tune with your body, if you want to develop self-care and self-love practices, and if you want to learn with support and accountability of a like-minded teacher, then my program is for you. But it's not for you if you're not comfortable sharing your charts or talking about your menstrual cycle with another person like me. And if you're not willing to chart your fertile signs at any point during the program, if you are not open to feedback or suggestions that will help you improve your confidence and your ability to chart your fertile signs accurately, and if you're looking for a quick fix or a magic pill that's going to improve your cycles overnight, this is not for you. So the program includes, well, first we start off with the introduction of the Justice method of fertility awareness, and it usually takes about 3 hours to present the information and to teach you how to chart, but you'll get the option to learn it all in one day for 3 hours, or we can break it up into 2 days for 2.5 hours, and then we will get 8 private weekly and bi-weekly sessions. So the sessions are going to be 60 to 90 minutes online private Zoom calls. And so the first month we do 4 weekly sessions, and then when we get to the second and third months, we transition to bi-weekly sessions. And then the calls will always be recorded so you can have access to them. Whether you just want to review the content or in the materials, you always have it. And then you get the Justice charting kit. So everything you need to chart, you get the Justice guidebook, you get the paper charts, the stickers, you get a glass non-mercury thermometer for charting your basal body temperature. It'll be all sent to your door. The shipping will be included, and then you get access to the PDF versions of the guidebook and the charts. So I'm a paper charter for life. I like to chart on paper. I actually have a 3-year charting workbook created by a Black woman named Lisa Henderson Jack. And she also teaches the Justice method of fertility awareness. And she's author of, what is it called? The 5th vital sign. So if you've ever heard of the menstrual cycle being the 5th vital sign, I chart on paper, but some people like to chart on the app. And the only app that I recommend that does not predict your fertile times is the Read Your Body app. So you'll get 3 months free access to the Read Your Body app. It's $15 a year, I think, but you get the first 3 months free. And then also I like to have everybody in this group chat on Group Me. Even though we have private calls, you'll be put into the group chat if you want to be, so that you can just post questions and share resources and just receive support from me and then other members in between the calls. So the investment is only $250, and or if you pay in full, or you can do like 3 monthly payments of $100. And I just want to put a pin on why this investment is priced so inexpensively. To be honest, in the beginning on my first slide, you saw that I'm an intern still. So I'm still completing my internship to become certified. And I have to complete a certain number of women to get my certification. And so I'm just trying to get people in like fast so I can be done by the summertime. But once I am done, this price will not be this price. If you've ever seen anybody with a fertility awareness cycle charting program, it is nowhere near this. But it won't be this price for long. So that's why I made it this inexpensive. And then if you want to start learning about or enter the program, you can complete the form to apply. So I'm gonna put, that's the one thing I forgot. Oh, actually I didn't. I can get it. I'm gonna just put the link to it. And I know y'all can see this. I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna put the link to it in the chat so you can go to this form to apply, because I do have to make sure that we are a good fit for each other, and put this here. I'm also going to include the link in the replay. So if you don't click on it now, you can click on it in the replay in the email that I send y'all. And then let me go back. I'm gonna share my screen again because I got one more for y'all. So that's my fertility awareness cycle charting program. And the link for my website, I'll put that in the chat too, if you want to browse around. But again, if you're not following me on the socials, IG and YouTube, you can find me on IG as @starring Tiana, and YouTube Tiana James, because I want y'all to follow me because I've been sharing a little bit more. And okay, so I'm gonna spend the rest of the time answering questions. I'm about to stop share so we can just see me. And I'm gonna go through the chat to see if anybody has any questions. Thank y'all so much for staying to the end. So, okay, I'm trying to work this. All right, so in the chat, I only had, okay, so Sophie asks, how does fertility rate relate to health? All right. So fertility rate relates to health in that, like I said, every month, every cycle, your body is preparing for a pregnancy. That's what the menstrual cycle is. Your body is preparing for a pregnancy. So in nature's point of view, we are reproductive units. So we are here to reproduce, right? And so every cycle, your body is preparing to reproduce. In the pre-ovulatory phase of the cycle, before you ovulate, the estrogen levels are causing a follicle to grow and develop and mature so the egg can be released at ovulation and met with the seed of sperm, right? And so before you ovulate, the follicles are developing and the uterine lining is building up so that that fertilized egg can be implanted. Then after you ovulate, the progesterone is making the uterine lining a nourishing environment. It's so that the implant or the fertilized egg can be implanted. And then if the egg does not get fertilized, the corpus luteum that happens after you ovulate only lives for 12 to 16 days. If the egg doesn't get fertilized, the corpus luteum dies, and then that progesterone levels go down, and then that's when the uterine lining will start to disintegrate and that sheds out, and that's what menstruation is. So if you are not ovulating, your body probably does not feel safe, is probably not nourished enough, or your hormones there's an imbalance between the estrogen and the progesterone and all the other hormones that go into play during the cycle. So that's how your fertility relates to your health. If you're not ovulating, it's your body saying that this is not a safe space to procreate or bring another human into this universe. So that's how fertility relates to health. All right. So I only had one person ask a question. Y'all can come off of mute or you can put it in the chat if you have any more questions. But that was the presentation. Again, I want to thank you. I'll give a couple minutes.
I can ask a question. So, if you are trying to get pregnant or if you're using the soft method to fill your mucus or whatever, is there a time where or a feeling that you should have where you're like, okay, I should really be trying around this time, or is it just at any point during that time you should be trying?
Yes. So thanks, Robin, for that question. If you are trying to conceive and you are observing for cervical mucus symptoms throughout your cycle, when you start to experience cervical mucus symptoms, that is when you are fertile. That's when the fertile window is open. The cervix is open and it is ready to receive sperm to fertilize an egg during ovulation. But I want to explain. So the fertile window is open when cervical mucus is present. All cervical mucus that you can pick up off the toilet paper is fertile. And sometimes it accompanies ovulation, sometimes it doesn't. So cervical mucus means that you're fertile, meaning the body is the vagina, the environment of the vagina is a sperm killing. It's just not, it's hostile to sperm. The vaginal environment is always acidic. But when estrogen levels rise, it stimulates the cervix to make cervical mucus that's fertile. And that fertile cervical mucus has an alkaline pH that is favorable to sperm. It can keep sperm alive. It can keep sperm alive for up to 5 days. So just like when I showed you in the cycle wheel, there's a period, the open fertile window, the cervical mucus starts off kind of sticky or creamy and lotiony, and then it goes to raw egg white. All of that mucus can keep sperm alive, and that's what makes you fertile, because it's keeping the sperm alive. And then when ovulation happens only on one day of the cycle. So when the egg is released from the ovary, it stays alive for 12 to 24 hours. So let's say today is Monday. Let's say we ovulate today. Monday, Sunday, Saturday, Friday, Thursday. If you are experiencing cervical mucus on Thursday and you have intercourse on Thursday and sperm enters into your vagina or even near the vulva, because cervical mucus hangs around the vulva, that cervical mucus will capture the sperm and keep it and hold it and keep it alive until, or at least for 5 days. And if you ovulate within those 5 to 6 days of the cervical mucus being present, it'll keep it alive until the egg is fertilized. And till the egg is released, once the egg is released, all the hormonal signals tell the cervical mucus and the sperm swim up to the fallopian tube to meet that egg. So whenever you see cervical mucus and you're trying to achieve pregnancy, you want to get sperm inside of you, whatever way you get sperm inside of you. That answer your question. That's all I have. Anybody else have any questions?
So I guess I'm trying to understand, do you deal with, for people who are unable to get pregnant, they're trying, but it's not working? I think there's a question in the chat too. Or is that where you see a specialist?
Well, so charting your cycles with fertility awareness method can help. So everybody is different. Everybody has infertility issues that are the root cause of their infertility is different. So with charting your cycles, you're able to reveal any underlying causes that may be causing the infertility. So sometimes it's hormonal imbalances. You can see that on your chart. So the charts help you reveal what is causing the infertility. So whether it's hormonal imbalance, whether you might be having sex on the wrong days, because again, it's only a 6-day window that you're fertile. Some people miss that window completely. And because they think they can get fertile any day of their cycle, they're having sex probably outside of that fertile window and not achieving conception. Some people have cervical injuries or inflammation in the womb that may be causing infertility. And so with charting your cervical mucus, with charting your basal body temperatures, you're able to see any hormonal imbalances, any maybe low-grade infections that you have that may be preventing the sperm from surviving. You're able to see whether you have thyroid issues. Maybe you have like hyper or hypothyroidism, which affects your menstrual cycle. You are able to see a number of things. You're able to see whether you have like your cervical health, because if there are injuries to your cervix, that will show up in the type of cervical mucus that you have. Or if you don't have any cervical mucus, that'll show up too. And so those are some reasons for infertility. There are lots of other reasons for infertility, but definitely charting your cycles is a starting point at least. And then, so if you're able to identify any hormonal imbalances or all the other things that I just named, you can use your charts to work with your healthcare provider in treating whatever issue you have. So you can take your charts, and I promise you, your OBGYN will be able to look at your chart and know what it's telling you, how to interpret. So in the program, you learn how to chart, and you also learn how to interpret what your charts are telling you. So the more information that you record on your charts, the more information that you get back. So moods, different moods, the patterns in your moods, the premenstrual signs that you're experiencing, all give you information and help you to reveal any underlying medical conditions that's causing the infertility. So it's just like a starting point. Like I said, the woman who wrote the book, The Menstrual Cycle is the 5th vital sign. It's like when you go to any doctor's appointment, they check your 4 vitals: your heart rate, your temperature, your blood pressure. What's the 4th one? I can't think of the 4th one right now, but those are your vital signs. If they're outside of the normal parameters, that's an indication of something that's wrong. And they have a starting point. So if your blood pressure is too high, they have a starting point of what may be causing your blood pressure to be too high or too low. And so the menstrual cycle being the 5th vital sign in women, if there's something going on with our health, it will show up in the menstrual cycle, whether it's a long or short periods, irregular periods, and ovulatory periods where you're not ovulating at all. It's whatever is happening in your body, your overall health will show up in your menstrual cycle. So when you have your charts and you're recording all of your signs, the 3 biomarkers plus other signs that you want to record or symptoms so that you can identify patterns, it gives you the information. So if anything is outside of the normal parameters, it gives you a starting point to look at what may be going on. And that's how you get to understand your body. All right, I didn't see any more questions in the chat. And a couple seconds. You're welcome, Dana. Also, y'all all have my all of y'all have my website link because that was sent in the email. But post this out. And yeah, so I don't have any more questions yet. So I'm gonna take it that you all, can you ask one thing each person learned? Oh, that was just for me. If anybody want to share anything that they learned, make this a discussion. I can allow y'all to share what you learned if you want to. I hope you all are going to be making y'all cervical mucus canvas and trying to see if y'all see any cervical mucus.
I would say for myself, that's my biggest takeaway because I have noticed it. I have never looked into the causes and the whys for the different textures and colors. So that was very helpful. So that's my biggest takeaway. Sorry, I'm congested.
Okay, thanks, Dana. Yes, everybody has, like I said, your body is always presenting these signs, whether you pay attention to it or not. It's just about paying attention. Most people wipe and not even look at the toilet paper. And then also sometimes the cervical mucus will only be present like one time a day. So if it's there before you pee and you sit down to pee, it's gonna wash it away. If it's at the vulva. And so if you're not, that's why we say check all day, every day, because sometimes it may present only one time a day. And if you miss that one time and you don't see it anymore, you don't even know that you have mucus. And so Chandler asks how to check for different textures when wiping. So I don't know if you mean different textures of cervical mucus or when I mention texture of the cervix, but I'm going to explain both. So when you wipe across the tissue and you can pick anything up, you use your index finger and your thumb and you see how much it stretches. So you want to check for how much it stretches, because that makes a difference. If it stretches at all, so like I said, it may be sticky or tacky, and it may be cloudy, white, it may be yellow. All of those mean something. The more it stretches, the more that's that peak type mucus that corresponds with peak estrogen levels. Peak estrogen levels corresponds to ovulation. The kind of mucus that doesn't stretch too much just probably makes like a little peak, like one of the pictures I showed you. That's called non-peak mucus. So that's when the estrogen levels are not that high. That's when it's like your fertile window is just opening up a little bit. But that's non-peak mucus, but it doesn't matter. If you can pick it up off the tissue, it's fertile. It's alkaline enough to keep sperm alive until ovulation happens. And then if you were talking about the texture of the cervix, because I did mention cervical position and texture. So that's the third fertility sign that is optional. You don't have to check that every day. When we teach you the method, we teach you to check when you start to see cervical mucus. And that's optional because you don't need it, but it does give you more information. So during your entire cycle, when you're infertile, the eye open, soft eye open. Okay, so when you're infertile, the cervix is lower. it'll feel it's lower in the vagina, so it's easier to reach if you were to reach for it. It is a texture that is closer to, like, if you touch your nose, it feels kind of hard like that. And also it's closed. During your fertile window, your uterus kind of rises up a little bit, or like straightens up a little bit. So the cervix rises higher in the vagina. So it'll be harder to reach during your fertile time. It gets a little softer. So it'll feel like if you touch your lips, and then it opens up. So you'll feel the cervical Oz, or the opening of the cervix, kind of open. And that's when the cervical mucus is coming out. So we teach, like, during your fertile window, you can check your cervix, and that just gives you more information, like really confirming that you're in your fertile window. And then after ovulation, when progesterone kicks in, it goes back to that infertile state where it's low, hard, and closed. So that was to answer Simone for how to check for different textures doing wiping. Okay, Chandler. I was wondering who Chandler was. Hey, Simone. I think she was saying that was, oh, you were saying that is your takeaway. And then Lex said that she learned that all her cervical mucus is fertile and it needs to be taught more effectively. Yes, all cervical mucus is fertile. I moved out of my mom's house when I was like 18 or 19. And when I used to go, like, I had this clinic that I used to go to that was close to where I lived, and I didn't know anything about my body, but I just knew that like once a month, I was having all this stuff in my panties. And all I knew was discharge is bad, right? They talk about discharge being bad. And I'm like, I am having this discharge. And I would go to the clinic so much. Like, I think I got a yeast infection. Sometimes I wouldn't even go to the clinic, and I would just go to the store and go get Monistat 7 and just use it. So when I learned about cervical mucus, I learned from a book first how to use fertility words. And when I learned that, I just was so mad because I thought about all those times I thought I had BV or a yeast infection. And it probably was just cervical mucus. And it is sad that we don't learn this information from our mothers or school. Like, in health class, we get taught a little bit, but like, you don't get to they don't teach you that much, and it's sad. And that's what made me be like, okay, I have to teach this, especially, and I'm especially passionate about teaching it to teenagers, because I feel like if I would have learned this, like when I did learn this, it changed my life, the way that I care for myself, the way that I see myself. All of that changed because, like, first of all, the body is amazing and it's designed like so intelligently. How it works is intelligence. And it just made me see my body so much different, and it made me appreciate my body more. And it made me want to, when you're learning about how to treat or care for your body with a holistic approach, you just learn how to take care of your body. And the way that my health improved is, I don't know where I would be today, or what kind of woman I would be today if I didn't know about fertility awareness. So that's why I want to teach teenagers mostly, because if you notice at a young age, I know that I would have treated myself differently at that age. It would have been a lot of no's, a lot more no's. All right. So I ain't getting no more questions. And y'all not talking to me that much. So I'm going to take it that I presented a lot of information for y'all to go ponder on. And again, if you want to learn more, learn how to use fertility awareness for all those reasons, to conceive, to avoid pregnancy or to monitor, improve your health, use that link to apply for the program. You can go on my website. You can see some more of the things that I offer. You can even book a consultation with me on my website. I offer a free 30-minute consultation so we can talk more privately if you're not sure if this is right for you. And yeah, thank you so much for staying on to the end, mostly all of y'all. I got one more question from Simone. She said, do you recommend using tampons? So I used to use tampons before I learned, not before I learned about fertility awareness, because in the beginning I was learning on my own. But when I entered into the program to become an educator, again, the program teaches you how to be a holistic reproductive health practitioner. So how to care for your body with a holistic approach. I learned about what most common sanitary napkins and tampons, the effects that it has on your body. I personally do not use tampons anymore because of what I learned about tampons being affecting the vaginal membranes, like the, what do you call it? Membrane of your vagina. So, you know, when you put your finger in your vagina, it's like wet and soft. Like the tampon actually damages your vagina. And the bleaching that the tampon undergoes, that dioxin that is the chemicals that are residual from that bleaching affects your vaginal environment. It gets into your bloodstream, affects your endocrine system. So your endocrine system is what governs your hormones. So it can cause, it's toxic to the body. And also it just affects, like Sophie said, the vaginal wall. So no, I don't use tampons myself. And with the program, I do teach you holistic practices. So I'm more into you being fully informed. So I present the information to you so that you can choose and make your own decision based off all of the information. And Monet said, please book with me. Monet is wonderful. She started fertility awareness. I'm gonna say this, when we teach you fertility awareness, we teach you to start off with just cervical mucus only, because it is a very kind of rigorous thing for you to get used to, of checking all day, every day, and then charting it down. And then once you get comfortable with cervical mucus, then we add basal body temperature. Once you get comfortable with basal body temperature, we add cervical position and texture. Monet started off with cervical mucus and basal body temperature from the very beginning, consistently. Like, she was like, I never seen anybody do that. So she was a really, really great client. Thank you, Monet. I learned so much while teaching Monet. So she said, she's a great teacher. Thank you. If you're disciplined enough to stick with it, you will succeed. Just remember your intentions. So her intentions were to prevent pregnancy and get on top of her health. So yes, you have to be clear about your intentions. If you're avoiding pregnancy, you have to use the method with the rules to avoid pregnancy. And if you are trying to conceive, it's easy. You really don't really have to follow no rules, but you still do how to learn. And Simone said, I'm the sole reason she uses the cup. It took a while to get used to it, but I love it now. So yes, I talk about the menstrual cup. I'll never, sometimes I use penny liners on my light days. But I'm not buying no pads or no tampons. I use my cup. I love my cup. When I learned about the cup, I started using it after tampons, because I used to use tampons. And like I said, I love it so much, I won't use anything else. The cup, it takes time to get used to. I'm actually going to put a video on my YouTube about it. It does take some time to get used to. First of all, you got to stop seeing your menstrual blood as nasty or dirty, because it's not. It's just the uterine lining that's coming off. It's not dirty. It's not nasty. But you're gonna have to, if you have to learn, you have to know how to locate your cervix, because the cup is inserted into the vagina and fits around the cervix. That's how it collects the blood. So you have to know how to be comfortable. First of all, put your fingers in your vagina while you're bleeding, and then find your cervix so you can position the cup correctly. And then Sophie asks if you get a splash with the cup. If you know how to take it out properly, which is very easy, you don't even have to stick your fingers all the way in. But once you have the cup in and it's time to change, you just stick it in a little bit, squeeze it to break the suction seal, and pull it out. Now, you got to pull it out straight or it's going to spill all over. But I love it because that's another thing with the cup. It collects the blood and you get to see like your blood. You get to see like the color of it, whether it's clotty, if it's thick, because all of those things tell you something too about your menstrual health, right? If your blood is too dark, or if it's too thick and clotty, like that tells you something about your menstrual health. And also, when you wear a pad or a tampon and you pull your pants down and it just, sometimes it smells bad, like that's not actually the blood. The blood never smells bad. I mean, unless you have a health issue, I don't know. But the blood never smells bad. It's the blood mixed with the toxins in your pad that's causing, and then the oxygen that causes it to smell. So when you pull your cup out and it's full of menstrual blood, like if you smell it, it doesn't smell like anything. You might smell like a slight metallic smell, but it really doesn't smell like anything. And then also, you get to see how much you're bleeding. So there are parameters with menstrual health. If you are bleeding just spotty a little bit, like that tells you something about your health. If you're bleeding, the cup, I think the cup that I have holds 25 milliliters. And over the course of my cycle, I know what's normal for me is that I bleed between 70 and 80 milliliters for the 4 days that I bleed. And now I know if I'm bleeding way more than that, something is different. But you get to see how much you're bleeding, because there are parameters, normal parameters. If you're bleeding less than that, and if you're bleeding more than that, that's a sign that your body is communicating with you, hey, pay attention to this. And that's why I really love the cup. Simone said she feels like the cup shortened my periods, which is when you actually read or get educated about the effects of bleached cotton near your vagina and cervix and uterus, how it affects your menstrual cycle. That is one of the things that it says, is that it makes cramping worse and bleeding more. And Monet says she used the cup between 2016 and 19, along with reusable cloth pads, but now she used the menstrual disc. I never used the menstrual disc. And yes, it does smell like a little bit like iron, which is normal because that's what the blood has. Like the blood, when you have normal iron levels, that means your blood is, that's what you need, is iron for blood. And if you don't have enough iron in your blood, that's when you bleed too much. Okay. Y'all is chatting. And I love it. Okay. So yeah, I presented a lot.
So how often do you take that cup out? Because I tried that and no.
So on a heavy day, so the manufacturer will tell you that you can keep the cup in for, I think, 10 to 12 hours, but on a heavy day, I can't keep it in that long. I probably have to take it out probably every 4-5 hours, because it'll fill up. And then it's full when you start to feel a little leaking. So that's when you know it's full, or you just get to know what's normal for you and know that on my heavy days, I need to change this at least every 4 to 5 hours, but everybody is different. So on a heavy day, I can keep it in 4 to 5 hours, take it out, pour it out, and rinse it out, dry it, and put it back in. Medium days, probably just I can keep it in a little bit longer. On my light days, I can keep it in a whole entire day, like morning to evening, and that'll be just that one time. So I know when I'm about to go somewhere, I don't want to change my cup when I'm going to be in a public place, because first of all, you need to wash your hands before you put your fingers in to take it out. And then you don't have to rinse it to put it back in, but you at least want to dry it off a little bit so it can create that suction. And I can't do that in a public restroom. So I know, like, even if I don't need to change it before I go somewhere that I know I'm not gonna want to change it while there, I take it out, no matter if it's full or not, empty it, put it back in, so I know that I have that space and time. And then like I said, on my light days, I could put it in and not even think about it the whole day. You can't even feel it. Sometimes the little tip at the bottom that you use to pull out comes when you buy it, it comes long, but you can cut it to make it fit. That's the only thing. Like, if you don't put it up enough, you're gonna feel that little long tip at the end, like when you sit down or something. So you can cut that to make it shorter. But yeah. And yes, it does leak on heavy days. I would change it every 3 to 5 hours too. Lighter days, the whole day for me as well. Changing in a public place was a lot. So make sure your hands are clean. Yes. If I know I'm gonna be in a public place, I change it before I go so I can have that time. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much. Y'all really stayed to the end. I love y'all for that. Look out for the email to have a replay and some more things. And yeah, good night, everybody. Thank you. I'm gonna end this. Let me stop recording.